Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of Invincible Comics. Today we're diving into the showdown between two unstoppable forces, Conquest and Invincible. Buckle up and get ready for an intense showdown that you won't want to miss. Mark Grayson is feeling depressed and sad while assisting the cleanup efforts after the horrific war against his alternate versions. Conquest, an elderly Viltrumite, unexpectedly shows up to tell Mark about his Viltrumite responsibilities. He tells Mark that he will be killed and replaced if he refuses to help in taking over the planet. Conquest reveals that he was sent specifically because the Viltrum Empire knew he would resist, even though Mark tells him it's not a good time. Conquest overwhelms Mark and crushes him through a structure as they charge towards each other, sending a tremendous shockwave across the air. Then he teases Mark by words of Anissa. Conquest admits that he doesn't care about the Viltrumites' plans and simply enjoys the challenge of fighting. But Mark punches Conquest out of frustration and rage. Yet Conquest smiles and compliments Mark. Then Mark throws himself at Conquest, causing him to smash through the building. After a fierce battle, Mark eventually succeeds in sending Conquest into orbit. Mark grins as Conquest launches him into the stratosphere, and he makes a failed attempt to escape. Conquest yells, "Enough games!" and punches Mark, breaking one of his priceless monocles. Mark falls with lightning speed, taking a beating from Conquest in the process, his eye throbbing with pain from Conquest's blow. Meanwhile, Debbie and her boyfriend Paul are fearfully watching the conflict on the news across town. Mark's half-brother Oliver hurries to his aid, but it appears to be in vain. He can't keep up with the two superpowered creatures because they move too quickly. Despite Mark's attempts to reason with Conquest, he refuses to stop, thoroughly enjoying the battle. Oliver unexpectedly attacks Conquest just when it looks like there is no hope left, briefly distracting Conquest's attention. Mark pushes his younger brother out of danger given that he sees this as his opportunity to save him. Conquest, however, instantly recovers himself and throws Mark to the ground, elbowing him in the neck. To the villain's excitement, Mark headbutts Conquest in a hopeless attempt. Conquest smirks as he catches Mark's final blow and says that if this is all his strength, he's probably going to die. In the meantime, Cecil finds out about the battle beneath the Pentagon and quickly checks to see if D.A. Sinclair has the alternate Marks prepared as Reaniman. However, Sinclair tells him that he cannot cut through their thick tissue to perform the Reaniman procedure. Cecil watches in terror, knowing that Mark holds the key to the world's fate. Then with a hefty heart he says, "God help us all." Adam and Betsy Wilkins were unable to believe what they were seeing as they watched the breaking news on TV. The media mistook Conquest for Omni-Man, and the entire world was watching as the Invincible was being thrashed by Conquest. But when Eve, who had been in a coma for 2 days, woke up suddenly and witnessed the horrors playing out on the screen, their shock turned to complete disbelief. Desperate to help, Eve accidentally revealed Mark's secret identity as Invincible. With the expression of fierce determination in her eyes, she gave a doctor instructions to get in touch with Cecil and make transportation arrangements to the combat area. Meanwhile, Conquest was tossing Mark around like a rag doll, revealing that he had even met Nolan when he was younger, proving that he was much older than Nolan appeared to be. Oliver once again showed up out of the blue, surprising Conquest and saving Mark just when it looked like there was no hope left. Oliver made an effort to change the direction of the conflict. Conquest, however, was not to be taken lightly, as he swiftly swatted Mark away in order to engage Oliver in combat. In a horrifying turn of events, Conquest struck Oliver so forcefully that he fractured his arm and lost many of his teeth. Mark stepped in just in time to stop the vicious villain from tearing him in two. Oliver was picked up by Cecil's medical staff, who then hurried him to the hospital. Debbie was worried about Oliver's safety, but her boyfriend Paul tried his best to comfort her. Gary, Art, Rick, Amber, and William could only look on in terror as Mark was overpowered by Conquest's overwhelming strength and power. As they collide with unthinkable speed and brutal force, the conflict between Conquest and Invincible gets more intense. Conquest rapidly recovers from Mark's vicious punch, which sends him hurtling into a destroyer ship. Eve shows up on the scene, wanting to support Mark. However, her arrival only makes Mark more anxious because he knows Conquest is a strong opponent. Conquest lashes out at Mark and Eve, impaling Eve and breaking Mark's leg. Mark's heart aches with sorrow and sadness as he embraces a dying Eve in his arms. However, despite this brutality, Mark is unyielding and swears with all his might that he would not let Conquest survive another day. However, Conquest enjoys the fight and licks the blood off Mark's finger, since he sees his compassion as a weakness. Although Mark is aware that he cannot match Conquest's power and speed, he is motivated to keep going by his desire to keep his loved ones safe. The two collide so violently that Conquest's cybernetic arm is destroyed and Mark's forearm is broken. Eve emerges from her near-death experience in the midst of the conflict, her body restored and more powerful than before. She releases a beam of energy that burns a large portion of Conquest's skin. Mark takes advantage of the situation to beat him relentlessly. Conquest lunges toward Eve, his body scarred and battered, determined to kill her, but Mark won't allow him to touch her. The world's fate is at stake as the three continue their battle, each moment growing more fierce than the last. Conquest looms over Mark as he lies on the ground, screaming in pain, ready to strike the final blow. However, Mark headbutts Conquest in a fit of adrenaline-fueled wrath, causing his face to contort. Mark uses the chance to crawl towards Eve, who is asleep and naked on the ground, while his opponent is momentarily stunned. With tears running down his cheeks, Mark declares his love for Eve while holding her in his arms. A team of heroes show up to take them to safety, just as he thinks she's gone forever. End of the story.